Valmiki continued. Very soon the darkness of the night began to recede, even as mental conditioning recedes with the approach of the awakening of the inner intelligence. Shafts of light from the eastern horizon illumined the eastern and the western peaks. Might seem like rather a quaint simile, comparing the morning sun to the receding of mental conditioning. But there's an important point here, that this practice becomes the mainstay of our daily routine. It's not something that we just do for 20 minutes or so while we're doing our study or meditation or whatever. It's something which, even if we're not practicing it, we can be thinking about it. We can be looking at what's going on in our own nature. We start living our life in this practice rather than perhaps grudgingly accommodating a bit of time to this practice now and again. This is the practice of self-enquiry I'm talking about. Ram, Lakshmana and all the others awoke at that auspicious hour and performed their morning religious duties. Then they proceeded swiftly to the hermitage of the sage Vasishta. They offered him appropriate worship, prostrated at his feet, and followed him to the royal court. The audience packed the court, but there was pin-drop silence. The space in the court was again filled with celestial beings and sages who had attained perfection. All of them took their allotted seats as on the previous days. Ram devoutly gazed at the face of the sage Vasishta. Vasishta said, "Ram, do you remember what I have so far said to you, the words which are capable of awakening a knowledge of truth or self-knowledge? I shall once again declare to you how perfection can be permanently established." And in this chapter we've got a wonderful summing up or description of self-enquiry. And you get the impression from this chapter that we are getting the mind, we're getting it from the mind that's experienced it. By resorting to dispassion, the unconditioned mind, and a clear understanding of the truth, this ocean of samsara, bondage to life and death, can be crossed. Hence engage yourself in such endeavour. So in other words, we have to begin by resorting to the unconditioned mind with a clear understanding of the truth. And this isn't just an intellectual understanding. We begin with a realization of our essential awareness, and from there we can contemplate the truth. So this ocean of samsara, this ocean of notions, is not only bondage to life and death. Well, it's bondage to notions of life and death, but also notions of an individual self, notions of an external world. And this is the ocean of sorrow. We're not saying that the world out there is a wretched place, that this is all samsara and is all horrible. This is the naive interpretation. The ocean of sorrow that needs to be crossed is here. This is the sorrow that we're running away from all the time. It's not that it's a big, bad, rotten, miserable world, although you might believe that. But if you do believe that, then what you should really be looking at is yourself. Stop worrying about the world. You worry about yourself and the world will take care of itself. Because that's where the sorrow is. That's where the suffering is coming from. That's what the suffering is making the world a bad place. So this ocean of sorrow isn't this supposedly dreadful world that we're living in. Most of us are running away from stuff that we don't want to look closely at in ourselves. We're often told about the bliss of our underlying awareness, but what most of us experience when we stop and start looking is pain, deep emotional pain. existential pain even, the pain of being alive. There's pain involved in that. There's an inner emptiness, a blackness even. This is the ocean of sorrow. It's not just simply a nice poetic phrase, this dreadful ocean of sorrow which we want to get beyond. The ocean of sorrow is in there. It's in our own negativity, it's in our own pain, our own emotional pain, our own anxieties, our own fears. This is the ocean of sorrow that we're trying to navigate through. Not the ocean of sorrow of the world out there. This is the endeavour in which we want to engage ourselves. But there's light at the end of that tunnel, and it is in our own awareness, which is free of all negativity, free of all pain. When the truth is clearly perceived, and when its misunderstanding has been completely abandoned, upon the dissolution of all the latent tendencies or mental conditioning, the sorrowless state is reached. It can be reached before all the latent tendencies have gone, but that pain can be brought into sharp relief, and that's where the great effort comes in, the great self-effort. You keep coming back to this awareness which is free of all pain. Yes, it's free of all pain, but pain has got this dragging quality. Pain drags the attention onto it, doesn't it? But let's not focus on pain, let's focus on awareness. The one infinite absolute existence or cosmic consciousness alone is, and it is not affected by the concepts of time and space, nor is it subject to polarity or division. The infinite alone exists and has somehow assumed duality. However, when in fact the infinite cannot thus be divided, how can such duality come into being? In other words, duality doesn't come into being. Knowing this, be free of the ego sense and rejoice in the self. Take relief in the self. Take pleasure in this state of freedom. It's a bit like being an emperor, being emperor of the world, as it was described previously. Enjoy it. There is no mind, no ignorance, no individual soul. These are all concepts that arose in the Creator Brahma. They're all notions. Whatever objects there may be, whatever may be the mind and its desires, all that is indeed the one cosmic consciousness. Everything exists in awareness, including ourselves. That one alone shines in the netherworld, on earth and in heaven as consciousness. As long as the concepts born of ignorance persist, as long as there is perception of that which is not the infinite, and as long as there is hope in the trap known as the world, so long one entertains notions of mind, etc. So when we're not centered on our awareness, we get caught up in notions. Notions of mind, body, world. It's all notional. As long as one considers the body as the I, and as long as the self is related to what is seen, as long as there is hope in objects with the feeling this is mine, so long will there be delusion concerning mind, etc.